Hi everyone, it's Miss Levy here with Display My Art, and today we are going to be making Georgia O'Keeffe inspired flowers. So for this project, it's going to be really important that we keep in mind vantage point. So Georgia O'Keeffe, her flower drawings were really zoomed in. Sometimes you wouldn't even be able to tell it was a flower because it was such a close-up look at a flower. So for these drawings, we are going to imagine that we are looking at a flower, and it doesn't matter what kind of flower, it can be any kind, and we are looking at it from above, so we're looking down at the flower, and we are looking at it really, really close up. So imagine that you're holding that flower really close up to your face. And that is the vantage point that we are going to be drawing these flowers at. For this project, we are going to start by drawing a circle in the middle. Now remember, our vantage point is that we are looking at our flower from close up and looking down at the flower. So our circle in the middle is going to be pretty big. You can have students use tracers or freehand a circle. Next, we are going to draw the petals from our flower. Now, since we are looking at our flower so closed in, some of our petals are going to be happening off the page. So when we draw our petals, they are going to stop and stop here. So you can have students imagine what the petal would look like if it kept going off the page. But since we're so zoomed in, we are not able to see where the petal will end. And you can have other petals as well that the ending is on the page. Also, you can encourage students to use organic shapes. So to make their flower petals into some nice wavy and curvy lines, and to have students overlap some of their petal shapes. So you can encourage them to not be afraid to overlap their petals, and they can always use their eraser to go through and erase those overlapped lines. You can also have students add details, like adding some little dots like the pollen that we see in the middle of flowers. And also adding some nice detail lines into our flower petals for texture. So once we finish drawing in pencil, we are going to go ahead and outline the whole thing in marker. For this part, you can use either a permanent marker, like a Sharpie, or a regular washable marker, like a Crayola marker. The difference is that if you use a Sharpie, when we paint over it, the lines will stay nice and crisp because water will not make a Sharpie run. If you use a regular washable marker, when we paint on top of it and we use the water, the marker lines will spread out a bit and it will create a nice blended effect, which also looks lovely. So it's up to your choice if you want to use a permanent marker or a washable marker. So now I'm going to go ahead and outline everything in our permanent marker. Now we're going to go ahead and paint our flower with our watercolor paints. Now, because watercolor paints like to run all into each other and blend on our paper, I always like to suggest to students to use analogous colors. Those are colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel. This makes sure that they don't mix all their colors together and end up with a brown flower. So for my painting, I'm going to be using these warm analogous colors right here. Next, for the background, I am going to use analogous colors again, but since I used warm analogous for my colors, I'm going to use cool analogous colors for my background. So even if your students don't use analogous colors, make sure that they're thinking about contrast when choosing what colors to paint in the background compared to their flower. So if they painted their whole flower blue, maybe blue is not the best choice for the background. So just keeping that contrast in mind. And there you have it. I hope you enjoy your beautiful Georgia O'Keeffe flower masterpiece. See you next time.